Hello and welcome to Fearless Mom. We are so excited today because today is a little bit different. We are, instead of a lecture, we're going to hear from some fearless moms on our mom panel today. We've gathered some questions, and I love the questions that you guys are asking. It tells me once again that this is a group of moms who are doing their best to be the moms God created them to be. And if you are watching us online, first of all, we want to say welcome to all of you first-time watchers, and for all of you who are watching maybe by yourself at home, we want to remind you, you are not alone. Our live audience here in Austin is cheering you on. Let's cheer them on, girls. You stay at it. It is worth it. You can do it. Okay, guys, I am ready to get going with our questions today, but first, we all know that sometimes I need a little supernatural intervention for focus, so I say we start with prayer. God, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you for this ministry. I thank you for the calling, the blessing, the responsibility that you've given each mom. I thank you, God, that you give us your word that guides us, that directs us, that encourages us. And I thank you now for all these moms who are willing to share from their experiences to help and encourage and equip other moms. God, we just come to you with open hearts, with open minds, and we want you to teach us, to mold us, to shape us into the moms that you've created us to be. We ask for supernatural strength, supernatural patience, supernatural wisdom that only comes from you. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. The reason we do a mom panel is because I think it's beneficial for all of us to hear from, to learn from other moms with different stories. As much as I love teaching about motherhood and parenting, I know that I don't have all the answers because we've all had different experiences. And these moms who are up here today, stand with me. They do not have all the answers either. They are awesome moms who are doing the best they can every single day. And so first, I'd love for you to put your hands together and welcome them today. We have DeAnn Wilson, Ashley Horne, and Julia Fortman. And guys, I'm going to ask you if you'll start with DeAnn and just go down the line and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is DeAnn Wilson. Can you hear me okay? And I am married to Russell Wilson, not the football player, but the gentleman right in the back. And we are a blended family, and we have a daughter, 25, Kaylee, and she is mine, but Russell adopted her when she was 12, and an 18-year-old son named Reed, who is my stepson, who I love as if he was mine.
Excellent, excellent.
And I'm Ashley Horne. I'm married to Matt Horne. We have 3 children, Braden, Logan, and Hadley. They're 8, 5, and 4.
I'm Julia Fortman, and I'm married to Greg for 12 years, and we have 3 children also, Zachary, William, and Emmy, who are 8, 6, and 3.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and now I'll tell you a little bit about them. DeAnn and I have been good friends for a long time. Yeah, in other words, I'm going to fill in the blanks, okay? And DeAnn works on staff here at Lake Hills Church, and her daughter, Kaylee, actually is the Fearless Mom Administrative Director, and she takes care of a lot of stuff. We are grateful for her. And then Ashley and I have known each other. Ashley was my kid's babysitter. Let's see, Ashley was that 19 years ago? Yeah, 19 years ago when she was a sophomore in college. So we've known each other for that long, and it's so fun now to watch her with children and raising them up. And then Julia Fortman and I have known each other for, let's think, at least 15 years. She taught first grade at the school where my children attended. And so I knew her I was a volunteer mom, and Julia was, Wonder Woman teacher over there. Neither of my children had her, but she had quite the reputation at school as being such an incredible teacher. Then she was an administrator. She comes at parenting from the school perspective, which I think is very beneficial sometimes. So I'm so grateful that you guys, I don't know that they really had an option. I didn't really ask them to be on the panel. It's possible that I just told them. So thanks. Okay. So I want to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to address, Julia, you the first question. How do you handle discipline with preschool age children, especially strong-willed kids?
Well, that depends on if you're talking about everyday discipline or situations like at gymnastics when your costume-loving 2-year-old decides that the costume that she clearly knew was supposed to stay in the cubby until after gymnastics, in the middle of gymnastics says, "Mommy, I'm thirsty, I need some water." And I do believe she really was thirsty, but could not resist that costume when she went to her cubby and came back to class with the costume on. So which type of situation are you talking about?
That's true. I would tell your children offer you different opportunities. So Emmy, can I ask which costume it was?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. It's either Spider-Man or a tiger. And so tell me both, because I also know that you have an elementary age who is also strong-willed, but in a different way.
Right. So in the situation in gymnastics, I realized that it was going to be a public battle if I were to try to get the costume off. And so I debated for a while what to do and decided to tell her that it's a mommy and me class. And so I said, well, mommy can't participate because you're not following directions. You're welcome to go finish class, but mommy's going to sit here. And so there was only about a quarter of the class left. So she went and she knew, and she kept coming back kind of nervously for the rest of the class. And I waited until we got to the car to talk to her about it and to let her know that it really made me sad that she disobeyed, that she knew better, but chose to get the costume on anyway. And she looked at me and gave me a big hug and said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I just love my Spider-Man costume." And I am so glad that I played the tape of what the fit would have looked like publicly. Not that I'm against that. I have walked out of HEB with a screaming child when she didn't get the gum that she wanted. But in this situation, I think that was the right thing. And this could turn into a therapy session when Julie tells me, no, it wasn't. But
No, I do. I think that goes back to, though, what we say so often is that there is no blanket answer. You should always do this. This never works. This always works. When it comes to children, we know, number one, moms are all different. Children are all different. Every situation is different. Yes, there are some principles that translate and cover all. There are certain things. You never tolerate disrespect. You never tolerate dishonesty, things like that. But I do believe that the wisdom and discernment that we are looking for to help us do our best in each different situation, we can't overlook that. We cannot overlook that each situation is different. And so I would tell you, pat on the back, Julia, good discernment there.
So we did say, now the Spider-Man costume can't come in the car with us anymore. She used to wear it until we got to places like gymnastics or school or wherever you have to take it off. But now it can't come in the car with us. So that was the consequence, and we avoided that. And a mom came up afterwards and showed me that on Etsy they make leotards that look like Spider-Man. So I believe we'll be purchasing one of those.
Emmy's dream outfit is a leotard that looks like Spider-Man. That is excellent. Love that girl.
But day to day, we have think time, and I've gone by the rule of thumb that the number of years your child is the number of minutes that are appropriate for think time. My first would not stay in think time. He is strong-willed in a very strong-willed kind of way. And so that really didn't work for him. My second, I think, has sat in think time 3 times in his whole life. And my third, she will stay in think time. And it is devastating for her to be removed from that. And that does seem to work. But in thinking about strong-willed children in particular, any child really, I think the lessons that we had about personalities are so helpful to think of when you're thinking of negative and positive, what drives them is different for each child. And that's really how we've approached each one? And I know that's kind of general, but
No, I think it's. I don't think we can give. People will say what is the right consequence. A lot of times, particularly with strong-willed children, moms will say to me, "It's not working. I have a strong-willed child," and I go, "You don't know if it's working. If you have a strong-willed child, you just keep doing it. What do I do if I've done this 100 times? You do it 101 times, and you continue to say, "I'm the authority. This is the rule. This is the consequence. Boom, move on." And so I think that's exactly right. And finding a different consequence for Zachary than for Emmy is mission critical. You know, Joseph and Emily, to keep Emily away from the mall was a punishment. To make Joseph go to the mall was a punishment. And so you have to know your children. I think that's great wisdom. Great. Anything else on discipline? I know you just got so much, so she's trying to be thoughtful of our time.
did you want to talk about positive
yeah.
reinforcement too?
I think discipline means making a disciple, and teaching both ways. It's not
Right.
just reacting. Absolutely.
Right. Well, and I've had people talk to me about positive discipline, and they'll say, "I just feel like I'm bribing my child to do something," and I feel like there's two ways. Like if I think of potty training, my oldest had a little star chart that he put stickers on, and when he filled his sticker, he could go to get some ice cream. My middle guy wanted to go shopping for little Star Wars, or at the time it was superhero toys. And my little one, she wants all of her stuffed animals to come in, line them up, and they need to do tricks for her when she goes in the potty. And so, those kinds of things, it's easy to do.
Can I ask how you came to that conclusion that that's what she liked?
She didn't leave any room for you to come to that conclusion. That is
She
what
told
she
you.
demanded.
Yes, that's good.
That is what she wanted. And so, so in those situations, it doesn't feel so much like you're bribing. But when you're correcting a behavior with a reward chart, it can feel that way. But I think of it like, and as they get older, you can have more conversations about it. But these behaviors that you're doing are not acceptable. This is not what our family stands for. This doesn't go with our
Vision statement.
vision statement. It's a family rules poster in our house. I was trying to think of how to word it. And so we talk about that and say, so we're, as mom and dad, we're going to help you change those behaviors. And so here, I have a child right now that's on a reward chart. And it goes from little ones, you only need 3 in a row to get a prize. Well, he's up to 50. So, and earning, and his is just every time he says, "Yes, ma'am," with a pleasant attitude. "Yes, sir," with a pleasant attitude when he's told to do something that he doesn't particularly want to do. And I think that with strong-willed children, giving them that visual and letting them be in control of it is so important.
Great. Very wise. Okay, we're going to move on to Ashley. Ash, what are some ways, I know you guys are so awesome about this. What are some ways that you and Matt, some ways that you prioritize your marriage and husband when you have little ones at home?
Date night. Date night is huge for us. We just make it a priority. We set up one day a week where we are able to go out to dinner, just the two of us, or it doesn't even have to do dinner. We can, if we're not able to get a sitter that week, we put the kids down and we just, no TV. We take time to communicate and talk. That's a huge one for us. Communication across the board is huge. I tend to over-communicate, which is helpful as long as I use the right tone. Then it's a lot more effective. But I feel like I try not to stuff it with him, or with any of as long as we talk and we communicate, then we seem to be on the same page, and our weeks go smoother. We enjoy date night. What else? What are some other ways?
Well, I was going to ask you, do you have a standing babysitter?
We do. We have a standing babysitter every Thursday night that we use. She came a couple years ago, and I think Matt had asked her, "Hey, are you free every Thursday?" And she
Which
said
is
yes.
so smart, because
Yeah.
Thursday just boom, it's all of a sudden Thursday, and I don't realize it's Thursday. So I
And
think
I
that's
look
smart.
forward to Thursday every week. We get so excited about it. I'm like, oh, It's Thursday, and that's part of the fun, too, is getting excited about it, talking about what you're going to do for date night, having them look forward to it. When they see how much you are looking forward to spending time with them, it just takes it, so much more for them,
I agree. I think that's huge. Even we're empty nesters, but I can tell if I say, I'm looking forward to going out with you tonight. Mac is like, we've been married 25 years. He knows I like him, but it
That's
does.
what you have to say.
Yeah, it's different.
I can't wait to spend time with you. I look forward to coming out
And
with
for
you
crying
tonight.
out loud, if I shower,
Yeah.
that's like next level. And then I put on mascara. He's like,
Make an
what
effort.
is going on? But it makes him feel, it's true though, it's a big deal. I have to work at that. That's why that question was not addressed to me, but to Ashley. But I also think you guys do a great job of, your children know that you always have date night. And it's not always easy though. And so tell me, is there ever a time when you have felt like I should be home with my children? Did you ever have to choose that?
I think, we have 3. And so Hadley right now, my youngest, she's 4. She just turned 4. She is going through a little bit of a stage where she doesn't want me to leave. She doesn't want to be with a babysitter. She wants to be with me all the time, which is very flattering. But I see how important it communicates to her, the strength of Matt and I's relationship, when I say, I get to go on a date tonight with Daddy. I'm going to spend time with him, just he and Mommy, and you're going to have a great time with the babysitter. I just always try to, encourage her and tell her that, it's for Daddy and I that we get this time and we get to spend this time. We love you and we're going to miss you, but I'll see you tomorrow, kind of thing.
I think
so
that's awesome.
I just try to always reinforce the fact that it's an awesome thing that I get to do, to go spend time with her daddy, and that she gets to have fun with the babysitter.
I think it's great. I think we underestimate the value that gives our children. They're learning marriage. They're learning security. They're learning they can live without us. They're learning I hurt, but I bounce back. I won't hurt forever. There's so much value in that. Way to go, Ash. Good job. Okay, we're going to move. DeAnn, we are switching gears big time here. Okay, we're going to ask about Mean Girls. We had several questions come out last week after our lecture on Mean Girls. And some of them I told you about ahead of time and some of them I didn't. Heads up. So when do you get involved with parents when your child is the object of mean girl behavior? When do you step in and talk to the other mom? This one said, especially when you are good friends with the mom and the girls have been friends for a long time. It can be an awkward situation.
And I think that's a great question, but I think the thing for me when I think about that question, what is so important, and I don't know all the circumstances around each situation, but what is so important for a mom is that we allow our children as much as possible to do that on their own. And it's hard. I know it's hard as parents because we want to step in and save the day for them, and we don't want them to hurt. But the reality is, we talked about emotional resilience. The reality is, any time that we can guide our children through those situations and teach them how to think and how to work through that on their own, if at all possible, then that's the thing that we need to do. We need to help them build that emotional resilience so that when they become an adult, they actually can handle these situations on their own. Obviously, if it's something where I think your kids, it's not getting any better, that they've approached the situation and that has not worked, then I think a conversation with a parent is appropriate at that point.
Yeah, I think, if it's physical harm, but I would say even then with boys, it'd have to be like real physical harm. I do. I think as much as I agree with you, as much as we can allow them to do their own thing, and it's awkward. It is awkward because part of you is thinking, well, I hope that mom doesn't think my girl's the mean girl. And so you're wanting to defend your daughter. It's not your job here. Your job is to be the mom, and it doesn't matter.
And I think it's, I'm lucky that Kaylee was not really bullied or had any mean girl experiences, and I'm really hoping that she wasn't the mean girl. I don't think she was. But we were fortunate that we didn't have that situation. But I actually was bullied when I was in 6th grade, and it was amazing because from one day to the next, the girls would just decide, there was one leader of the mean girls, and she would decide that on the next day that they were all not going to like me. So one day everything's great. I walk in the next day to school in 6th grade, and oh my gosh, no one's talking to me. They won't talk to me. They won't look at me. They were so rude to me, and which is, it was fine. I just got mad. And I didn't understand, but one day the mean girl took my hat off my head and she threw it in the toilet. And so I was so upset and so mad. I got home, I walked in the door, slammed the door, and I don't know why my dad was there, but my dad could tell that I was not happy, and he walked in and he asked me what happened. And I explained to him what happened, and he said, if this girl hits you or hurts you, you defend yourself. And so the next day I was actually, I hate to say this, I was actually kind of excited that maybe
you were
she was
wanting
gonna
her
hit
come
me.
at me.
Yes. But being the rule follower that I was, I went to the principal first. And I asked the principal, I said, I explained the situation, and I said, if somebody hits me, is it okay if I hit them back? And he kind of smirked and he said, if it's self-defense, yes. And so there you go. I mean, she did not, and we did not have any altercations. Thank goodness. We just moved on. But here's the thing. My dad did not call the school. My dad did not call the girl's mom. My dad did not call the girl or go up to the girl and say, you're not going to treat my child that way. My dad believed that I could handle it. He gave me the power and empowered me and believed in me that I could go handle that. And that's just made me stronger as I've gone on into adulthood.
I mean, that explains so much. Okay. So glad she just told that story because it's all now crystal
you didn't
clear.
know that, did
No. I think maybe I'd heard it. That's so awesome. Get 'em. Okay. So we'll go back to Julia. What do you do when your child is friends with someone who you feel is a bad influence?
That's a good question. I try to talk to my kids and get them to reflect upon it, because I feel like if I'm the one saying this is a bad kid or this is a bad influence on you, then it's quite possibly, especially with a strong-willed child, going to draw them to that person more. And so...
P.S. That really happens in dating.
And so I'll try to talk to him about, like, you got in trouble today. Who had to run laps with you at recess? Name those people. Interesting. And if you don't have to volunteer in a classroom to know who good influences and who bad influences are. You can go have lunch with your child in the cafeteria one time, and you can get a pretty clear picture of the choices that they're making in friends and what kinds of influences they are. And so then, as the names come up, well, that's interesting. I heard that child's name was running laps with you last week, and this week you got a bad grade on this center activity. And who was in your group? Oh, that's interesting. That's that name again. And then draw it to another child. Oh my gosh, you and this boy got the bonus work done? Awesome. And try to get him to start thinking about what's happening in his and how it's impacting him. Doesn't always work. And I did have a conversation with a 3rd grade teacher about what would you advise? And she said that it can get to the point where you can say, this was her advice, and we took it. We don't think these children are a good influence on you, and here's why. And we would like for you not to hang out with them. And my thinking in taking her advice was, I would much rather experiment with this, if you want to call it that, when he's 8 than when he's 16. And so if he's going to revolt and be drawn to these people more now, I would like for that to happen now in 3rd grade and not at 16. And he started out breech, and I did everything I could to turn him so I didn't have to have a C-section, and he didn't turn. So we've started on this path right from the womb that he's got to figure out things on his own. And so, and when I say everything, I mean everything. But so he's going to have to figure it out. And so we've made it clear that these kinds of behaviors, these things I've listened to in the cafeteria, these songs you're coming home singing, they don't align with our family and what we stand for and what we believe in. And so we're going to ask you, if you have the choice, don't pick them.
I think is great. I think what you're teaching him when you say, do you see the patterns here? And you're trying to get him to come to the conclusion. It goes back to what we said. You're teaching him how to think, not what to think. You see, when your child goes off to college, he or she is not going to have you there to process it. So instead of telling them how you got to the answer, you want to help them come to that conclusion. Does not always work, but you're still teaching them the process of coming to that conclusion. You're trying to teach them how to think, not what to think. And Friends is a great example of that. And moms and dads, we don't have to give a reason for you can't go play at that child's house. I get that a lot. Like, what do I say when he's invited or when she's invited and I don't know that family? I go, you say no. It's not that tricky. you say, that won't work for us today. No. We can't go do that today. Or can I spend the night at their house? Or my responsibility is to use my discernment until my child has discernment, to use my wisdom until my child has wisdom. And so I'm teaching my child to have wisdom. I'm teaching my child to have discernment. But in the meantime, I'm responsible. And if they need my permission to go over to somebody's house, I choose. I choose whether or not I give that permission.
Right. Well, and I think this year it might be Ralph and Sam that are in his class that are the ones that are drawing his attention wayward, but next year it'll be another person. And in the sports teams, there'll be another person. And in the business world, there'll be another person. There's always somebody there to distract you, to tempt you. And so they all have to really learn
how to navigate that. Yeah, friendship matters. It does. My friends. Okay, where was I? That was Julia. Okay, Ashley. I think this is so you. Are there any tips you have for organizing your day? My perception is you are so organized.
Wow. Thank you.
You are, though. You have a routine.
Let me tell you my one secret for organizing my day. And a lot of people don't like to hear it, but I wake up very early. And so it's a hard routine to get into, but once you do it, it changes your whole day. That allows me, I try to get up at least an hour and a half before my children do. They usually wake up, they're early risers about 6:30, but that gives
the math, people. She gets up at 5.
But it does. It helps me. I start the day off, I can exercise, and I can have a quiet time. And for me, that will change my whole day. And for the way I respond to things, the way I respond to my children, my husband, for what I get done, it helps me make a plan for the day. Now, I don't always do it, but follow through with my plan. Most of the time I get up early, and that just helps me. It's a really hard habit to get into. We have a resistance to it, but I promise you, once you do it, it just changes your world.
Do you do that 7 days a week?
I do that at least 5 days a week. So Saturday, I'll usually sleep in a little bit, and then Sunday, I'll sleep in too. But every other day.
What about when they were babies and they were still getting up in the middle of the night? Did you do this?
Yes, I did.
She did. Wow. She made it part of her day. She said, I'll vouch for her. She did, and I was not awake when she was. But my kids were older. But I'm telling you, this is so strange, Ashley. So since we've been talking about it recently, or maybe Kaylee was like, did you know Ashley gets up at 5 every day? I'm like, yeah, I'm happy for her. I celebrate her capacity. And so then I started doing it. I thought, I'm going to do it. My kids are gone, and I wake up 2.5 hours before I have to be anywhere, at least, so that it's changed my life. Mac does it now. We do it together. I mean, really, it has changed our world. I would have said to you, actually, my mom would tell you right now, there is no possible way Julie Richard can do that. She is not a morning person. She has never been a morning person. It has changed my life, even though I don't have children at home. So I'm telling you, if I can do it, trust me. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And when did you start doing that?
probably when I started having children. I mean, I was the person that you did not talk to me before I had my coffee. I was not kind in the morning. I would grumble. And I just was like, this is not a good habit to be in. I need to change. And so I think once I started having children, I realized, wow, they're on their own, calendar and time schedule for the day. I'm going to have to go ahead and get up that much earlier, make it that much more of a priority for me to take control of my day so that I can be a better mommy to them. And so I've just gotten into the routine of it,
How long
great.
did it take you? Do you remember, like, when you decided to do it, how long was it until you felt like, okay, this is part of my routine now?
It took a while. I mean, at least probably 6 months of doing it and making it a habit. You know what helped me also is on some of the days I had a friend that I would meet to work out in the morning. So that accountability was huge. And I knew, well, if I can get up early on the other days, why can't I get up early on, Tuesday, Thursday too? So I just kind of started making it a pattern that way. And it helped me. Accountability is huge. I have a few friends that I know that I can text at 5:15 in the morning, and they'll text me right back.
I'm up now. You can text me.
So now I'm going to add Julie to the list.
I used not to be on that list. I am now on the list. So instead of working out, I'm sitting having my coffee. I wanted to clarify and be totally transparent with you that I wake up, but I only do part of what Ashley does. Okay. I think that's awesome. And I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. DeAnn's laughing because I know she says that about other things. If Julie can do it, for crying out loud. That's okay. That's okay. If I make you feel better in that way. Okay, DeAnn, what things or actions have you taken to help gain your child's confidence or trust? What have you done to gain Kaylee? 'Cause I would tell you that Kaylee definitely trusts you. It's very apparent. Are there things you've implemented? Are there things you've done? Or as you look back, I was building trust?
Yes, I think it's very simple. It's not always easy, but it is very simple just to be trustworthy. And there's I could make up all sorts of things, but the reality is just be truthful with your children. And certainly by the different ages, there were things that Kaylee and I navigated when I was a single mom that we worked through that I couldn't just share all of the information with her at the time. She wasn't capable to receive it or process it because of how old she was. But as time went on and she became older, you give that information to them as they can handle it, if you will.
You're praying for wisdom and discernment the whole time. God, show me when it's appropriate.
And so as time went on, I would give different things to her that she would based on her age. And over time, she can see that I am trustworthy, that she can rely on me. I speak truth to her. And what I say, sometimes, even if it's not something that she wants to hear, she knows I'm speaking from a good place and a place of trust that she knows that I'm speaking for her best interest. And so it's a slow process.
That's the key word there. It's a process. We asked Emily recently, our daughter's 21, and I said, Emily, she's very strong and very intense, and we love that about her. But we said, what was it how did you know? No, she said to us, she said, guys, even though I didn't always agree with you, even when I was mad at you, I always knew you had my best interest in mind. And I go, you did? You did not act like you did. So you did? And she said, yes. And I said, well, what was it then? Help me learn what it was so that I can empower other moms. She said, I don't know. I just know that I always trusted you. So now I have done so much research on trust. There is so much out there about how to build trust and the importance of trust. I cannot wait. I'm teaching on it in a couple of weeks, but I'll give you a little snippet because I believe it's mission critical. I believe that rules without relationship build resentment. And rules with relationship build responsibility. That's what we want, our children to assume responsibility for their own lives. So we're building that rules with relationship. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about time with your children. A A relationship is built one interaction at a time. There have been studies at the Gottman Institute. Brene Brown does an incredible dissection of trust. They both agree trust is built one interaction at a time. I want you to be aware of every interaction you have with the people in your lives, with your husband, with your neighbor, with your relatives, with your children. I'm building trust right now, every interaction. If I stop what I'm doing and I go, what? And I look my child in the eye, I just built trust. If my child comes in from school, I stop what I'm doing, I sit down and have snack, I'm building trust. If my teenage child comes in and I really want him to shower or get his hair cut, instead I'm going to, that's just a hypothetical, instead I'm going to sit and listen. What am I doing? I'm building trust. Every interaction is an opportunity to build trust, and you're building that relationship, and it's just built one choice at a time, over and over. Somebody asked a question, speaking of the over and over, what do I do if I've disciplined my child or if I've said the same thing 100 times in a row? Say the same thing 101 times in a row. Say the same thing 102 times in a row. Relationships are built over time. Your discipline, you don't know if it's working. You just keep at it. You keep at it. You keep at it. With strong-willed children, the behavior will not change immediately. You are saying, I'm the authority, you're the child, over and over and over and over again. A lot of parenting seems redundant and it seems repetitious, but it is so worth it. Were you going to say something? I saw you pull your mic up.
I forgot what I was going to say. Move on.
You made me think of when I was talking about discipline, I meant to share that I've found that the more that I play with my children, the less that I have to discipline my children.
Bam! Say that again.
The more that I play with my children, the less that I have to discipline my children. And not sitting down to play a board game so that you have the chance to talk about something that had happened at school. I mean putting everything down and going out and playing football or playing tag or playing dinosaurs and stepping around imaginary lava. Whatever it is that they want to do, the more that you play.
And that's important. Whatever it is that they want to do. It's so, and I know there are some of you going, that's just not who I am. Make
It's
it who
not
you
me
are.
either.
Yeah. Say that though, Julia.
It's not
true.
me either.
But you make the choice because you see the value.
Yes, absolutely.
And I believe you get immediate return. I think it's one of those parenting things that you get immediate return. You invest that time, you get that return from that. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that your kids want to hear the truth. Don't underestimate. They really do want to hear the truth. And even if you don't think that they do, they want to hear you speak truth to them, and that's where the trust starts being built, is because they know that you're going to tell them something, and they know that it's going to be truthful because you're willing to tell them something that may hurt their feelings or they may not want to hear. And so that's why I think, slowly, again, the process of building that trust over time.
Don't you think that makes them feel valued too?
Yes.
Like that you know your relationship is strong enough that you can say something difficult.
Yes,
right?
and I've had both of my children tell me that they know that I am going to speak truth to them. And so even if they don't want to hear it, they know that when they come to me and ask a question, that I'm going to give them the truth. And there's, as a mom, that is so rewarding.
They trust you. I think it's huge. But you put a lot of time. Yeah, it's a lot of time that you pour into it, and it is so worth it. And every child is different. What built trust with one child is not going to build trust with another child. That's our responsibility, to learn the language of our children, to get to know them, to see what is meaningful to them. For Joseph, it was sitting next to him, not saying a word while we watched the same TV show. Emily would have been so offended if I sat there and did not say a word for an hour. She would have been like, what is up here? This is the opposite of helpful. That's her big line. This is the opposite of helpful. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh dear, Emily. Okay, one thing that came up that I would love to ask you guys, when we did the mean girl and the bully lesson, is what do you do when you realize that, hey, is my child the mean girl or is my son the bully? What do you do, number one, when you recognize that? Number two, what can we do to prevent that? Jump in. 1, 2, 3, go.
All of our children are angels, apparently.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, if you speak to that, is it indicting? No. Go ahead, Julia. Come at it. I'll tell you, Julia, come at it from an educator's perspective. How about that?
Well, I think it is important to ask that question, first of all, and being open to the fact that your child might be, and not to try to pretend that it can't be or to rush to their defense and say that's not possible. And if anything is brought to your attention from the school or from another parent, whether or not you think that your child actually did exactly what they said, that person is telling you they believe your child is capable of doing that. And that causes, I think that justifies a reflection time about what's going on and how you can specifically address it. And each situation, I think, will be different.
And I do think we have to go into it as we parent. One of my prayers is, God, help me see things as they really are, not as I wish they were. Help me see my children as they really are, not as I want them to be. Because once we open our minds up, then we're ready to receive that. Because we have to be willing to admit that our children are not perfect. They're awesome, and they're lovable, but they're not always perfect.
Well, and we have to be willing to self-evaluate. We have to look at ourselves and say, am I a bully? Is this a behavior that I am actually teaching my child? And so when we're open, we also have to be open to look at ourselves with an open mind and an open heart to see if it is actually us that are teaching them how to do this. And that will, if you are, that's going to lead the way and help you get to the root of the problem there.
Absolutely. First is open mind. Let me see it as it really is. Second is, am I doing anything to model this behavior for my child? Is there anything I can do differently? And then third is, let's address it. Let's address it head on. Let's talk to whomever it is. Let's hear. Your child will watch and see. And that doesn't mean you're not defending your child. That means you're trying to equip your child to be the human that God created them to be. And so in that, my responsibility is to hear what the school said, to hear what this other mother said, and to say, this is what was said. Now, I have an opportunity. I can turn it around, and I'm tempted to, and go, can you believe that mom called me about that? Now let's throw daggers at her for calling me about that. So now I've deflected it from what I really should be addressing. So whether or not that mom should have called me, it doesn't matter. I now have the information, and I have the opportunity to use it as a growing experience and say, well, this is what they believe happened. So here, let's talk about it. Let's move on.
And if you do that, it actually reinforces the mean girl or mean boy behavior, because your children hear everything that you're doing, and they see by how you respond, by your face, or leading questions, or all of our children are capable of being mean girls and mean boys. We have good friends that come over to our house, and my children do things that I wish they wouldn't do that could be mean. And so I love how Julia said earlier about, encouraging your children to put their thought process together. We talk in our home a lot about good choices. Was that a good choice, or maybe not the best choice? What could you have done differently? And just that talking through it a lot, or that was a great choice. I'm really proud of you for coming to that conclusion all by, by connecting the dots. That was awesome. So allowing them to think for themselves, and they recognize what's kind and what's not kind.
They do. I totally agree. One time, we're going to end in this one story, because sometimes they recognize it. Emily, we were at a mother-daughter bunco night, and we were the girls were in 4th grade, and so they were all upstairs playing, and I knew something had happened, and I had a feeling it had to do with Emily. And so one of the mothers said to me, or no, I asked Emily, we got in the car. I said, so tell me what went down. It sounded like maybe not everybody was getting along. And so then she tells me what happened. So apparently the girl whose house it was, Emily had gotten, she was trying to boss everybody around. And so my Emily said to her, quit being so bossy. And so I say to Emily, well, how do you think that made her feel? How would that make you feel if someone called you bossy? To which Emily replied, well, I guess I'm just used to it. Yeah, so you also have opportunities to take those moments and say, I get that. You probably get that a lot, Emily. And that's because God's given you this awesome strength, that he is going to use in mighty ways. But what you have to do is say, when am I using that strength for good, and when is my strength hurting other people's feelings? And so when you're a people pleaser like myself, and then you have a child who literally cannot see, well, I don't know why that would hurt anybody. I mean, I was just speaking truth. And so trying to get them to come to that conclusion, I think that is just so wise. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But our responsibility is to say, God, help me see things as they really are, not as I wish they were. And then, am I doing anything to contribute? And then, what can I do to help my child make better decisions? And to go back to what Julia said, to help them learn how to think, not what to think. And then, as DeAnn said, to teach them truth and to speak truth to them. We are not helping our children when we shield them from the truth in those situations. This is what was said. This is what we need to do about it. You guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And for those of you with little children, this is what you're starting now. You're observing them. You're working on your marriage. There was such value in what you guys said about that. And then preparing yourself now to see your child as he or she really is. Man, it's not easy. It's not easy, but we believe you can do it. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much for this time. I thank you for these moms who are willing to share from their experiences. We know, God, that you use each of our stories to encourage and to empower other people. I pray right now that there are moms in here, there are moms listening that are considering their experiences and how they can help cheer other moms on by sharing those experiences. We are grateful that you come alongside us and that you fill in the gaps where we fall short. We ask that you give us wisdom, discernment, insight, common sense to be the best moms we can be this week. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen.